streaming on a few different platforms: ILEETA YouTube, Facebook page, and LinkedIn page. So we have myself, Joe Willis, and Todd Fletcher here, along with our executive director, Harvey Hedden. So, Harvey, for those that may not be ILEETA members and potential ILEETA members, just give us a brief background bio of who you are.
Well, I've been ILEETA executive director since it was kind of turned over to me by the founder of ILEETA, Ed Nowicki. I had retired from the Kenosha Sheriff's Department after 30 years there, and Ed said, "Come on in, just work a few days a week. It'll be great." And then a year later, Ed said, "Hey, here you go." and But Ed created a great thing in creating ILEETA, and we wanted to try to eliminate the problems of as you guys know, there's been a number of previous trainer organizations, and so far, knock on wood, we're in very good shape. We continue to develop and grow and develop new concepts. The primary purpose being to share ideas amongst trainers, to share concepts, to share instruction, to share things that will help criminal justice professionals be better at their jobs and be safer at their jobs, and of course, in turn, help the public be safer. I've served 30 years as the Kenosha Sheriff. I did some other smaller agencies as well. Most of my years were in the narcotics unit. I was the supervisor there, and it was a great ride. But I'm very glad to be retired now, and most of this type of year, I'm down in Florida. No more winter sports for me until the conference in March. So we're really looking forward to that. We're hoping that the COVID concerns are behind us now, and we can get back to a more normal conference. And I applaud those people who have come the last couple of years, especially 2021. That was a difficult one, but they braved it and they came in. And we're going to be bigger and better than ever in 2023. And I'm hoping we get a lot more proposals in the next week or so. We've got some great ones so far. And what we want to do, of course, Brian, I appreciate the opportunity, is to take any questions that anybody might have about submitting a proposal. You three guys are all amongst our top tier instructors and have been there at one time or another. We're the first time presenting at ILEETA, and can give your experiences as well, which I think is just extremely valuable to people. But if there's anything I can, of course, answer, I would absolutely want to do that, whether in this format or they can email me.
Absolutely. So for those watching us on any of the platforms, I've got Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Feel free to post a comment on one of those sites. We will hopefully see it, and we can answer that question for you. I know I struggled years ago putting in a proposal, and it was John Bostaine that we sat down in a cheesecake factory here in Denver during an IACP conference, and we hammered out some ideas on a napkin. I wish I kept that napkin, and that was, I think, 12, maybe 13 years ago, and I've been teaching every year since, except the year we didn't have COVID. So it's been a blessing, and I love teaching, and I love watching people grow from those things that I impart my wisdom on them. So it's always neat to see people become better than you and be successful. And that's what ILEETA is about, is just making all of us better next year and the year after. Todd, what was your first training experience?
So my first year at ILEETA, I was actually one of the scholarship recipients, and we were in Wheeling, and I came back, and I kind of made a promise to myself that I was going to submit a class to teach as hopefully a way to maybe give back a little bit to ILEETA for what they gave to me. And I got to tell you, when I submitted that class, it felt like it felt good to get the class submitted. But then as the conference got closer, I got nervous because, I mean, ILEETA is a the who's who of the law enforcement training world. And we've been 1 year, and I wasn't immersed in the ILEETA culture of mentorship and coaching and helping each other out. So I went in worried when I didn't even have to be, because what I've learned over the years is that the people that attend ILEETA, the regulars, the board of advisors, the people that work the conference, they want to see you succeed. And there were people that reached out to help me, and I think that I'm better because of it. And I think that it was an experience that I would never change. That's why I keep coming back.
I was going to say, and you keep coming back for more.
Keep coming back.
Joe, how about you? Your first experience at ILEETA teaching?
Yes, so I had floated an idea by John Meyer and Gary Monreal from Team One Network and Gary Klugowitz, and they all, in their own ways, told me this is kind of an interesting topic, and if you want to see how it floats as an instructor and in the instruction space, this is the right audience to do it with. And so I had never been to an ILEETA conference. I was an ILEETA member, had not been, but I knew about the organization, and they said, why don't you give it a try? And so I submitted the proposal, and I will tell you, much like Todd said, leading up to it, I was so nervous. I reached out to every ILEETA member I knew, and I heard exactly what Todd just said was, everyone there wants you to succeed. You're going to be sitting in a room or speaking in front of a room full of people who truly want to be there because they want to hear what you have to say, but they've also been where you are or want to be where you are, and they want to see this work. And I will tell you, every year, whether it was my first year or since then, I felt that way walking in front of the room. I'm with my peers and people that I can try new stuff with, and I can be completely vulnerable as an instructor. Things that I would never do in my home agency, I can do here, and I can test and try out. And I felt that the very first time.
Awesome. So, and we hear all these positive experiences, and everybody has this anxiety that leads up to that very first time. But after the first time, it's just like you're teaching a class. We're all instructors. Everybody in ILEETA is an instructor, and we're teaching to those in our agencies, our recruits, our in-service classes. It's no different, other than everybody here is going to be giving you guidance on how to become a better instructor. And it takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone because you are teaching to the best of the best instructors in the world. And again, I've heard this a couple times tonight. Nobody wants to see you fail. They want to see you succeed, and they want to give you tools and ideas and all those words of wisdom and just to help you be a successful trainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things
I'm going to disagree with you. Can I disagree with Brian real quick?
Go ahead.
Sure.
I'm curious.
Go ahead.
So the reason I say this is because you said it's no different than teaching at your home agency. It's 20 times different than teaching at your home agency in a good, positive way. And here's what I mean by that. I think that teaching in-service training is one of the hardest things people can possibly do, because your students go in with preconceived ideas, opinions, and notions about you and about the material, right? So they can bring their positive and negative biases to that training class. When people go to a class, like when I walk into a class at ILEETA, if I know that it's going to be put on by Brian or Joe or whomever, I may know them beforehand, but I've got I'm positive about the experience, the environment, the atmosphere, the culture.
Yeah.
I don't have any concern that there's somebody that is going to try to stab me in the back, or the interagency politics stuff. I don't feel that at all at ILEETA. When ILEETA is a place for positive mentorship and growth. And I've never experienced anything negative in that regard at ILEETA. So the difference is that in-service training, come train people that want to be trained and want to learn and want to have discussions. It's a lot easier than you think.
And I'll tell you to support kind of what you said, Todd. So and I've been in the environment at ILEETA where there is the oppositional opinion, and I absolutely felt the trust and admiration, even in that environment where somebody will come in with the exact opposite opinion of what I have, and it may be a tactic, right? Like a technique for whatever practice. The diplomacy and the professionalism where that conversation occurs, whether it's in your class because you are a good facilitator, and we encourage great facilitation at ILEETA, and that involves the exchange of ideas, but we're also trying stuff out where this is how I'm going to have to teach at my agency, and maybe I don't get to do that. So they'll come to you afterwards, and the conversation, that professional decorum of the, hey, this is my opinion on it, and I see that as well. So you're absolutely right. You will find you can trust the audience you're walking into. You don't have to worry about someone running back and telling the lieutenant that, hey, so-and-so is trying new stuff out, and you don't have to worry about all that. What you do get is the benefit of that same type of person coming to you later on and saying, hey, dude, I would have tried that a little bit differently. Here's what I'm doing. Tell me why this works. And the dialogue is just awesome afterwards. So I would add that as well.
No, it absolutely is. And this is a question I've heard a couple of times, and I've gotten at least one response. What topics, courses would you like to see at the ILEETA conference? And this is to all those people out there watching us on social media. One of the topics that was just recently in the last couple of weeks or so suggested was, how do you put together a training organization after retirement, and how do you market it? What do you do to charge your fees, and how do you become a successful trainer after you're retiring from law enforcement? And that, I think that would fill some seats up in the rooms. What other things have you guys have heard that people would like to see, if anything?
One of the things I hear from people related, kind of directly related, is what would I have to offer? And again, I think you guys are good reference for this. There's always something that you're doing that maybe one of your officers comes and says, hey, or somebody that was in your program says, this is really good. And you think it's that everybody knows this. And it turns out they don't. It's just, it's something you developed, you went here, there, and everywhere to find this different information. And it turns out you got something really good. So if there's something you have that's really good, chances are there's someone out there that would like you to share it with them. And sometimes what we think is second nature is not to everybody else. And they have things to offer as well. So think about those things that you do well, prepare that. And of course, the other thing is, this is, as you guys have said, this is instructor oriented. The only issue I ever see is that someone comes in and does the same program that they would do for their troops. They're in class. And when we're teaching to other instructors, and their goal is to get something out of your course that they can take back to their own agency, their own company, or whatever, and use there. So that's the only caveat, is it's instructor driven. So whatever you can do to help that person develop that back at their own agency, the better.
I found that on that end, Harvey, one of the things I like that some of the instructors do is they may teach that package that is their in-service or their recruit class, and then they will either sidebar along the way and say, here's a little bit of the instructional design, or at the end, they'll go back and rewind on some things and say, as I was developing this, here are some of the things that we looked at, some of the research that further supports this. So they get a chance to try here's the basic level stuff, but then they go in and they kind of explain a little bit of the background on it, or dive a little bit deeper for the instructors in the room.
Now, Harvey hit it on the head. We always assume that a lot of instructors are really good at presentation skills, and that's one of the things that I teach. And every time I teach it at the conference, I have somebody come up to me, I didn't know this. And I know one of the drills that I have is I kind of stole it from Toastmasters, little 2-minute drill, and Todd has emailed me and wanted some more of these questions to help his students, and it's kind of a fun little drill, and not a lot of people know about it. And we always, like you said, we always assume everybody knows everything, but we don't. And when we go to these classes, like I pick up all sorts of things on your presentation skills, your instructor skills, firearms training, defensive tactics. There's a plethora of information and wisdom out there and people that you look up at as celebrities, I guess, in law enforcement. You read their articles, you see them on videos, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in this person's class. Next thing you know, you're teaching a class, and they're sitting in your class taking notes. That is really awesome.
Yeah.
And
And
instructor development is the largest block that we have because it applies to everybody who's there.
Mhm.
Whatever you teach, and like you said, it's important. It's an important element.
I think something else is the leadership element. I think that a lot of classes have a leadership element that is talked about during classes because as instructors, you're leaders, right? And I think that is a kind of a key element to what we do. And from my perspective, as an ILEETA member, and kind of growing through the culture of ILEETA, I see a lot of leaders, I see a lot of mentors, and I think that that's a great thing. So anything that you can bring to the conference with that type of element to it is going to be super popular.
Absolutely. Harvey, what is the application process when you submit a proposal? What is the process? What goes into that, and how do you select that? And when do you find out if you're going to be selected to teach at the ILEETA conference?
Well, that's the thing that I think unnerves some people is the whole application process, and we've tried to make that as streamlined as possible. The one great thing is it's all online now, and once you log in with your username and password, all your personal identification is automatically populated into the database. So then you're just left with the meat and potatoes of the class. And we do have some sections where you're allowed to kind of free form and say, here's all the synopsis of what I want to do. And there's only a couple of places in the form that I warn people that you have to be limited. And that's the course description and the bio, because we're putting these into a paper book and we can't make it like a New York City telephone book with 100 and some classes. It would be, and people wouldn't read it anyway. So it's important that those parts stay the same. The one element that I tell people is make sure that the title really helps people understand what the class is about and kind of sells the class. They used to say in advertising, the sizzle sells the steak. So if it's a title that's obtuse or whatever else, and people can't understand it, they may never go and read the course description. And then the course description needs of course to be a good one that wants to make people come there and see what's going on. And the bio is of course a very short thing, so you want to put the most important elements that relates to that class. So it doesn't take that long to process it. You guys would know how long you have to go through it. And typically, when you send the proposal in, you get an automatic email back acknowledging that here's what you put in. It'll also list all the data fields, so you'll see what you put in case something was wrong. If there is something that's wrong and it's minor, just send us an email. We'll correct it. And then we look over these. We have a review group that looks over proposals. And generally before December 1st, because that's when we want to put the curriculum out, we will have notified everybody that you're in, you're out, or have corrections. Sometimes there's some corrections that have to be done, but we would like to get that out as early as possible. So December 1 is when we shoot for it. If we can do it earlier, of course, we will.
So what if somebody puts in a class proposal, let's say it's for a classroom presentation, what equipment do they need to bring to do their presentation?
Well, the beauty of it is all the AV stuff we have. We always suggest that if you have something on a laptop or on a computer, that you bring your own. And the reason we say that, even though we have some backup laptops, you'll never know what kind of player your particular video uses and whether we're going to have it. And you don't want to be struggling at the beginning of class. The old expression, it worked all year, but not up here. It seems to happen with video and things like that. I don't know. It worked on my laptop back at the department. Well, then bring that laptop with you. Everything else we'll have. We'll have projectors. We'll have speakers. we'll have screens. If you need a flip chart, we've got that. Dry erase boards, whatever. We will have that equipment. The hands-on training stuff, generally the instructors are bringing that, or we tell the attendees, for this class you need a dummy gun, your duty belt, and this and that, whatever. Obviously, for the firearms classes, you probably need to bring a firearm. We do have a couple loaners that we put out for those people coming out internationally because of the difficulty in bringing a firearm in from outside the country. We do have loaner firearms for both them and the instructors if necessary. So we try to accommodate pretty much everything. Now, we don't use a lot of PA. I should say that, because I'll get people that insist they have to have a lavalier mic and this and that. Whatever. The problem is with 20-some classes going on at one time, if you're a loud person already and you're speaking on a PA, then maybe that interferes with the class next to you. Some of the larger classes that we know are going to be big draws, we will use public address systems. So we do have some capability of doing some of that stuff. But really, all the AV stuff is there. The hotel's been great to work with as far as the accommodations. We have several different types of classroom setups for classrooms. Armor classes are a little different. DT classes are obviously a lot of space. And we have mats donated by Crown Mats. They bring those in and set those up, help us set those up. And so we really pretty much have everything. If you have your presentation together, we'll take care of you.
So you mentioned, Harvey, I've got two questions here. You mentioned we'll take care of you. I'd kind of like to, on the day of, if I'm not that technically savvy and I need help, what does that look like? Who do I go to? How does all that happen? And
you come down. Yep. Great question, Joe. You come down to the command post, and some folks have done that because they have AV support back where they work, but not here. We have some technical geek squad people that will help you before. They'll help you in the classroom if necessary. The critical thing is, as you said, is not to wait till 2 minutes before go time, but to come down ahead of time. We'll help you out. If you need to make sure something works or whatever else, we'll do that. But the AV equipment is all pretty much pre-deployed in all these places. But someone will come down and say, well, I've got this new Mac and I need an adapter or whatever. If it's something really strange, it's a good idea to bring that adapter yourself. But we have a lot of adapters and whatnot to take care of some of those problems.
I've seen that year after year. I've seen instructors helping one another, but one of the biggest things, and I said it, you said it, rehearse early. So if you know you're teaching Tuesday morning, go in after the last class on Monday afternoon and just test it out. The instructor's done about 15 minutes early, 10 minutes early, and even if they run late, find another room, just test it and know your stuff works. The other question was, and this one may be more for the group, but for Harvey first. Last year, I'm going to read it verbatim here. Last year, my class had 0 attendees for the first session and about 6 to 8 the second time I presented. What are some ways I can drum up interest in a class and highlight it ahead of time? 0 students was kind of demoralizing. So what are your thoughts on that? We've all been there. It's a huge conference with a lot of different opportunities. What are some of the things that work for attendance? And Steve,
you already got an answer too. You got an answer from one of the people listening. One of the best ideas that someone just posted there in the comments on Facebook is to write an article for the journal about your subject. And I know you guys have all done that, but you can only put so much in that course description, whatever. But we have a pre-conference journal, and a lot of instructors take advantage of that and put that in there. The other thing, as I mentioned, is the title. The course title is extremely important to bringing people in there. Sometimes I can't predict what's going to be a popular class and what's not. So, I may guess wrong too and think that, hey, this is something that everybody wants to come to. And finally, the last thing that we're going to try to do is we're going to try to take some of the people that are newer instructors and put them kind of in their own time block right at the beginning of the conference. So at least one of those sessions, they're not competing against a John Bostaine or any of the three of you guys. But we try to put them in there. It's difficult, I grant you, but we try to mix it up a little bit so that they're not competing against the same people, time after time. But it's always a difficult thing to tell. But I do say the title and the course description, those two things are huge to getting people to come to your class. So then write an article like somebody suggested here. Excellent point there. That was Dwayne, and he's got some awesome articles.
Yep. So. And I think that something else that's important to remember is that I think that we all feel the same way. If one person is encouraged or driven by what you have presented, it's a job well done, right? So I don't, you may have 50 people in your class, you may have 20, you may have 4, 5, or 6, but you touch one person who can make a difference and start spreading the word from there. That's really, how you got to look at it. Don't look at it as a numbers game. Look
even
long-term.
within the conference, and even with the conference, I think we've seen that where the first session they had a few people, and the talk got around the conference about that session,
Yes.
and here we almost had to move them to a different room because the second session they blew the doors off the place. It's kind of funny how that works. But as I said, the more information we get to the attendees, the better. Before we go on, if somebody asked a question about scholarships there, I just want to quickly answer that. December 1st, when we put the curriculum out, you'll see the scholarship apps. Those will be out as well then on December 1st, possibly even a little before that.
Another thought on getting more attendees to your class is just kind of networking and building those relationships up in the hallway. And just say, hey, I'm a new instructor, or I'm teaching this class on Tuesday morning, and it's about XYZ. If you're interested, I would love to have you in my class. Sometimes those things go a long way, and we're all here to support everybody. And, we early on, we like to go and see those instructors that are really powerful, but I think it's good to diversify our knowledge of everything and maybe take some classes of instructors that we've never even heard of and support those especially those new instructors, and get out. So I think all of us attendees should go out and support those new instructors and maybe learn something new and take back to our agencies.
And don't just write for the journal in the the conference edition. The more you write for the journal, the more you get your name, your face, your ideas out there, the more that the members are going to know you, and the more, I think it increases the likelihood that they're going to show up for your class. So I think the more involved you are, the better the turnout may be.
Absolutely right. And for any of those that would like to write for the journal, early December is the deadline for the next journal article. So send those articles to myself, Carrie, or Tom Dvorak, or Kim Schlau, and we'll get you published in the next journal. So if you have any thoughts on or some ideas and you're struggling, just reach out to any of us. We're all here to help. That's the great thing about this organization is we all want to see everybody succeed, and everybody is here to help everybody else. It's a peer-based organization, and that's what I love about this great organization, and it is what keeps me coming back year after year.
Hey, Harvey, one thing that
go ahead, Todd.
One thing to touch on the firearms thing, because of course that's near and dear to my heart. One thing that I think that a lot of members that have never attended a live fire class at ILEETA don't know is that oftentimes you work with one of the ILEETA sponsors to provide ammo.
Right. And this is, again, especially for those folks that are flying in. If you're driving in and your agency still has ammunition, we hope you do, then obviously you've got the wherewithal to do it. But we have folks that are flying in internationally. We have some folks that, where it's just difficult to fly with as much ammo as they want to bring to a class or what have you. So Winchester has been one of our conference sponsors, actually, since we came to St. Louis. They're right across the river. Oddly enough, even Winchester had some difficulty coming up with ammo a couple of years ago. We shot all super clean that year. But they're a great group to work with. Our vendors and our conference sponsors have been instrumental to putting on the conference. I mentioned Crown Gym Mats has been with us since 2003, helping. We couldn't do the DT training without them. But all the sponsors that help defer some of the costs of the conference so that the attendees' costs are less, that's a big deal. And we need to make sure we appreciate them. And I appreciate the folks replying about the Geek Squad, Roger and Jerry and Jody and all those guys. These folks donate a week of their time. They rarely get to go to a class. They come there out of the goodness of their heart to help this conference go, and I can't tell you how valuable that is. It can't be done without them.
Well, you mentioned the Geek Squad. Um, I think this conference cannot be successful if it wasn't for all the volunteers that work behind the scenes. So, tell us what some of those volunteers do behind the scenes, Harvey.
Well, they put fires out basically because there's always going to be problems, and I like to say problems are opportunities for better service. Sometimes we have lots of opportunities. Things happen, and they handle AV issues, but they also handle other things. This room's too hot, too cold. The lights need to go down. They need to go up. Whatever else. This didn't arrive last year. Our shirts went to the wrong Union Station. They went to the Union Station in Kansas City, Missouri. And one of our staff members, one of our volunteer staff said, I'll go get them from St. Louis to Kansas City and back again. Just like that. So that we'd all have our shirts. So everybody'd have their shirts, which they and we do give a decent amount of conference swag out. We prided ourselves in that you always get a shirt. This year will be a 2023 commemorative shirt, and there'll be some other things in the bag to commemorate that 20th anniversary of ILEETA. But just a lot of little things that people are doing. We're very fortunate to also have the sponsorship of the St. Louis Metro Police Department, and they've brought over their recruits to help pack bags. They bring them over at the end of the conference to help tear things down. And of course, they're young, which means everything is done much quicker than it was back in the day when we used, God bless them. We love the Citizens Academy, but they were my age, those people. And these guys are in their 20s, and they're just bing bang boom. The bags are packed. It's all good. It's all good. And the hotel as well. The hotel is very good at responding to problems, and just been excellent to work with. And it's not just about the building and the facility, which is a beautiful building. It's in the National Register of Historic Places. It's really about all these people working together, and none of it's possible without the instructors, the folks like you, that volunteer their time to come and teach at this conference. And not everybody does that. I can't tell you how many times I'm called by people and say, well, I'm a professional speaker and I get paid, this much money, and this is what I would expect to have. And I want blue M&Ms, in a dish. And I'm sorry, I can't do that because that will raise the price of the conference. And because I have all these other people that are volunteering to come and share what they know and what they love doing with other people to see them get better. And we've all been lucky enough to see some of those success stories, people that came in on scholarships that went later to teach for the FBI, just so many success stories. People that came in and said that the Emerson Hour changed their life. Just being part of it and listening to the Emerson Hour had changed their life. And I guess sometimes I don't see enough of that because I'm off doing something else. So I love to hear those kind of stories from people that there's good things happening out there. And we saw that in 2021 when people could come into the conference, mask up if necessary. We had the antibacterial stuff everywhere, and but they came in. They were just happy to be back in a feeling of normalcy and of sharing and camaraderie and really doing what we're supposed to be doing.
That's awesome. Joe or Todd, what we are streaming to some channels that are open to anybody to watch. So those instructors that are watching, what would you tell them if they're not members? Why should they become a member of ILEETA?
Go ahead.
Go for it, Joe.
Joe?
Joe, that guy.
Wherever we are. Hey, I'll go first. And odds are Todd's going to say something smarter than me anyway. So the reality is that we have this tremendous network of honest peer brokers where you're going to get that candid feedback on how you're training. You get a chance to try out the new stuff like we talked about earlier. But I would say so much bigger than that is that training is kind of an interesting, hyper-connected, and yet incredibly lonely place at the same time. where you are, you're kind of working on your thing and you're doing the best you can with it. And when you come to ILEETA, maybe it's not the exact same thing that Todd Fletcher is teaching at the range, but he's one range over from you, and you're going to talk that night about the various things you did, and you're going to find your network and your niche, and you're going to find that group that connects with you. And we see that all throughout. It doesn't matter what the niche is, there's the network. And so it doesn't have to be that lonely island that it sometimes becomes in the agency. So that's what I would add.
So I'm going to kind of build off of that because, Brian Willis talks about come to the conference to make connections. And I think that what ILEETA offers you, and I think what the conference offers you, is the ability to make some really deep connections that go beyond 1 week a year. It'll provide you with whatever it is that you want it to become. So ILEETA has made connections for me, as far as being an instructor and now, retired and having a business. But more importantly to me, and something that's near and dear to my heart, is that the 1 week a year, I can actually go to the conference, see people that I truly value as friends, and see them that 1 week each year, right? And so people like Brian and Joe, we may, we'll get together and have these kinds of conversations, but I only see you guys 1 week a year. And those connections are invaluable. So if I'm looking for help, assistance, or can reach out and provide help or assistance to Joe or to Brian or to Harvey, you have this support system that actually wants to be there for you. And so it's even deeper than 1 week a year training conference. And I think that is one of the things that separates ILEETA from a lot of other organizations. You can't tell me that IACP is filled with people that want to help you at every turn, right? That you go there to see your friends every single year, and that's the one time a year that you see them. You can't tell me that some other organization has that same culture that ILEETA builds. And I think that that's really what separates ILEETA from everything else out there.
Those are some of the common themes that I've heard too, Brian, is that it's a recharge. It's an emotional recharge for people, and that learning and training and everything occurs in the classroom, but also in the hallways and the elevator, stopping for coffee, just all kind in the vendor area, in the expo is a major source of learning. The unusual thing about this expo is that a lot of the folks that are vendors are also trainers, and they kind of had to do that. Some of the companies had to up their game because trainers are the people that will ask them questions that the chiefs of police never would. The chiefs of police might look, what's the free trinket you're giving away? But these guys will ask questions and they'll want to know. And they're also the movers and shakers in their departments who often choose what that equipment's going to be. So that's another real big advantage to having them there. And of course, they're supporting our training. They're providing a lot of support in simulators and all kinds of other stuff that is new to us that we never see otherwise. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that it happens everywhere. In fact, there were some members years ago that said, hey, could we have training at night too? And I'll tell you the reason we don't do that before somebody asked it. We found that we want to have that time for you all to get together, and to break bread or to have a drink or whatever, that's important as well. So except for a few events, we want that to happen. So we don't want to have classes that we want you to be able to decompress, think about what it was that you saw, tell somebody else what you saw, and move on from there. So that's why we don't have night classes. And of course, we don't want we want to tax our command post. We'd have to have a second shift for them too. I don't think their union would allow that kind of work day. So
I remember early on we did have a few night classes.
We tried it out. Yeah, we tried it out.
yeah, your mind becomes mush after
Yeah.
about 3 days of
That
12
process.
hours of learning.
That's
But
those real young guys, that don't have that problem, I guess.
right. My thing is, and I've said this numerous times over and over again, almost every single ILEETA live that we've talked about, that it's so much more than just connections in a conference. You build relationships and you maintain those relationships. You pick up the phone and you if you're in Omaha, Nebraska or Lincoln, Nebraska, Ron Scheit lives there, and you're going to say, "Hey, what are you doing for dinner tonight? Would you like to go to dinner?" And Ron will drop anything and everything and hook up with you for dinner. And it's that way with everybody. There's a lot of people. John Bostain came out here, and we hooked up for adult tasty beverage once or twice when he was out here. But it's those relationships that you build. And I've told this story before, so those that haven't heard it, my father passed away, and I was at the funeral. I turned around, and there's an ILEETA member, surprisingly, that drove hours and hours to to be there for me and my family, and it was Ron Scheit. So those connections become relationships, and you maintain those. And if you are experiencing a problem in your agency and you don't have an answer, somebody else has experienced that in ILEETA, and they can help walk you through and fix whatever it is to um, make sure that problem is gone and doesn't happen again. So just great relationships, positive,
I don't know
powerful.
if I heard anybody else say it, but every year, the battery recharge, right? We hear about that constantly, right? One of the things I've noticed year after year as I talk to other members and even in my own experiences, we go through this period of uh, working our tail off, trying to make everything work, and the expectations are on us. And there's this one time where everybody gets together, and yes, it is I would say at times, if you do it right, a professionally grueling experience, right? You work your butt off to get ready for the conference, to be as prepared as you can possibly be, to put on the best presentation possible. And then when you're there, you do the best you can. But there is this connection that happens, and it almost, for so many of us, and this goes out to everybody who's been there knows this already, but for those that are sitting on the fence whether or not to become members, there's this time where as you leave the conference, you are in a complete recharge state. Everybody who attends the conference will tell us that. And maybe it's just the difference in connections, but it's also largely this, I don't know, it's a universal, multidimensional thing that happens where I meet Harvey, and from his perspective as a senior leader, retired, running this organization, he gives me one charge of energy. And then I run into Jason Durr, who asks the best questions and is like just the quintessential best friend. I mean, everybody on here is smiling. You all know what I'm talking about. Dwayne is probably smiling wherever he is. You run into someone like him, and that's that guy. Then you run into Carrie, and I see Carrie was just mentioning a comment here, and she's got a whole different set of questions, challenging you in a different way. So I think it is like you're being plugged into so many different power sources that when you leave, you're ready for anything.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I get excited for the conference every year. At the end of every single conference, it's amazing. I am exhausted, enthusiastic, recharged, motivated, and yet the conference takes me about 3 days to recover from. Right, just because of the mental aspect of it, but the energy that you get from other members is absolutely second to none.
I'm guessing Harvey takes 3 weeks to recharge.
I was going to say, Harvey, how long does it take you to recover?
That's kind of an inside joke, but one year somebody said it when we had our dinner, on Friday back in Wheeling. Somebody said, "Oh, the conference is almost over. I can't believe it. I want to cry." And I said, "Me too." But we're all dedicated. We're all dedicated to this mission because we've heard these things from people, but that have made a difference someplace. and hopefully it makes a difference in keeping someone alive somewhere, and making someplace safer, making somebody, feel better about what they do as a trainer. That's one of the classes we're looking at trying to promote this year too. Is how do you fight the professional jealousy that goes on within the organization? I think you guys alluded to that with Kevin Davis a few weeks ago. It's a real problem, and so we want to talk that through as a group, and probably have a panel for that one because there'll be a lot of ideas on how to address the problem of what's
I think
wrong.
There'll be a full classroom there for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Could become its own conference.
That's a very good idea. Harvey, for those that may be struggling with convincing their agency or their supervisor to come to ILEETA, what are some tips that you can offer to help sell to their agency to help pay for their way to ILEETA?
Yeah, that's a great point. We actually will post, and we'll probably update it. I think it might be on the conference pages now, a letter that's there that is an idea of how to sell this to your bosses. Obviously, once we know what the curriculum is, you could, as an instructor, say, here's the things I want to go address. Here's the classes I want to do. In fact, somebody mentioned this before, that bringing more instructors down there, one of our comments there. And there are agencies that pretty much close their training unit down and come to the conference, and it's their week to recharge, reassess, and plan for the coming year. And they'll say, you're going to this one, Brian. Joe, you're going to this one. And Todd, you're going to this class. They spread themselves out. They get more coverage that way, and they bring more stuff home. So it's been valuable in that regard, because then they take that stuff and figure out where that's going to go in the following year for their department. But I think what we've heard over and over again for people, that it's a great force multiplier. The conference is training your trainers. Your trainers are force multipliers. They will make your officers safer, more effective, and just make a better agency for you. So, and if you're a professional instructor, if you're a private instructor, you need this as well. You need to keep up to date with what's going on there, because as we all know, we're always students. All of us are always students. We're always learning. Once you've decided I've reached the top, you're slipping behind. You're falling down that hill. So keep on being a student. Keep on studying.
Absolutely. Great response. I hear that quite a bit. Well, my supervisor, my sergeant, they're not going to spend the money. And again, somebody alluded to it earlier. There are some scholarships available that you can reach out and apply for, and reach out to any of us for some ideas or ways to maybe convince your supervisor that, hey, this is the biggest bang for your buck for an instructor level course conference. So it's powerful.
Yeah, people would go to a training for one or two of these classes and pay the travel and hotel and everything else, and here you can get all this in one spot. It used to be the thing that sold bosses with certifications, that you could get this armorer class or taser or whatever else. It's funny that now the most popular classes at ILEETA are the 2-hour blocks. And I think that's because many of us train in more than one area, where we train a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we want to be able to get a little bit of it. It's like we call it the trainer's buffet. Some of it is called the trainer's buffet. So I get a little appetizer here, a little main course there, whatever else, and that's what I build for what I need. And so the 2-hour blocks, those are very popular. 4-hour blocks next most popular. The 8-hour blocks are only really used for certification classes unless it's something really unusual. There are some cases when we'll do that where it's something very technical. And more than that is even more rare. If it's a certification that we think there's some demand for, then certainly we'll go beyond that. But the longest we've ever gone is a 16-hour course. And to tell you the truth, those aren't well attended as those 2-hour blocks are.
Yeah,
go ahead, Todd.
Well, I was just going to say that I really like the 2-hour blocks. They're bite-sized samples of a whole lot of different instructors and a lot of different ideas and opinions. And I think that's one of the cool things about the conference is just the diversity. I can go see Joe Willis, and I can go see a first-time instructor. And I got to tell you, I've gotten to the point now where I'm more excited to go see the first time instructor than Joe Willis, for crying out loud, because I can talk to Joe, and this is the first time instructor may be somebody that I've never met, I've never seen, never heard, and that excites me. And so I kind of like to throw down the gauntlet and say, guys, put in your course applications or your class proposals and and do a class. And I'm talking specifically to Irvi Almanza and Jonathan Gates. I'm calling you out. Get that stuff in. Um, get it in. Get it submitted. I want to see you guys presenting and creating your own successful classes. And I think that there are a lot of you out there that can do that.
The firearms class that Todd teaches, those are 4-hour blocks. I just want to make that clear, because by the time you get to the range, if we had to, the time you get to the range and come back, you wouldn't have very much time. So those are all 4-hour blocks done one time. The 2-hour blocks are repeated.
So I just saw a comment in here. I don't know if y'all saw it about the. Can we highlight the names, Harvey, of those first year instructors in the guidebook?
Yeah, it's something we can do. I've talked to instructors themselves though, and some of them feel like that would mark them. Some of them feel like, oh well, maybe not as much as expected of me. And like you say, the idea has been we're all the same. That no matter what. I think those that have gone year after year know who the new instructors are because they've seen these other names there. So it's something we'll consider. But I've heard that from new instructors that we talked about doing that in the regular paper program thing we put out, and some of them felt like, well, then maybe they'll just avoid me, or maybe they'll, I don't know. Mark of Cain.
I think it would be the opposite, like Todd said.
But there's every year there's some great new stuff, and we try not to repeat classes unless it's just been sold out every time we've had it. Some of these classes obviously we'll always fill, but we try to keep things rotating around. So we ask people not to submit more than a couple of years in a row, or to change it up and give it some new life and tell us why it's new. So there's a reason for you to come every year, because there's always something new there.
And I'd like to point out a comment over there. It says Ross should be presenting this year. Ross, yes, you should be presenting this year.
Ross
and you should bring me another gun to win. Just saying.
He's awful valuable where he's at. He's awful valuable where he's at. I try to push some of the staff out to go to a class once in a while too. So.
Yeah, when we said Ross needs to present, Harvey kind of went, "Oh, wait." Ross presents, then what? Todd, you're going to be busy.
This is the great thing about ILEETA is we can laugh and joke and make fun and poke fun at each other, and at the end of the day, we're all friends, and go have an adult tasty beverage, go to dinner. And that's the other thing is if you're coming to ILEETA and you are by yourself and you don't know anybody, look for one of us, any of us. We'll go out to dinner with you. We'll go have a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever you want. We'll sit down and we want to welcome you with open arms, and we don't want you to feel left out. So we know that there's a lot of people that come here by themselves, and sometimes the first time, and it can be a little bit intimidating, but we're all here to make it comfortable and make you have a great experience. So just look one of us up.
Yeah, these are great examples of what ILEETA offers, not just during the conference, but as you said, throughout the year. You got a problem, reach out to these guys on Facebook or whatever, or you can find them. They're not hard to find on the internet either, but they're all good examples, and there's many, many more out there that we all know of, and some of them are the reasons why we're here. For me, it was Ed Nowicki. For people like yourselves, it was other people. You mentioned John Bustain, Brian Willis, those people who are still just as important to us as ever, but good mentors. And that's what we want to do. We all want to be good mentors. We all want to help other people become better trainers.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left. So just one question for Todd and Joe, and then we'll wrap it up and give Harvey the last word. But Todd, what would you say to somebody that's on the fence about submitting a proposal for the conference?
Take the leap. Take the leap. You don't know what you're capable of unless you put yourself out there. And it's better to put yourself out there in a culture like ILEETA where people want to see you succeed and are willing to help you to get there. And so if you're at all on the fence, just do it. Just take the leap. There's All of us have had that anxiety. All of us have had the doubts, the self-doubts, the questions of, am I worthy? Do I really have anything to share? And the short answer is yes, you do. You absolutely do. Just take the leap, see where it goes. If you need help, if you need encouragement, if you need a pep talk or anything else, we are here for you. Just take the leap.
Awesome. Awesome. Joe, same question. What would you tell somebody that is on the fence and not sure if they should submit?
I'm going to say, I guess if this person were sitting right in front of me, I would say, I'm going to guess you didn't get where you are today by playing it safe. In the spaces you've been in, wherever you're at, you've taken risks. And chances are, when you left your comfort zone is where all that good stuff happened. And this is one of those times where you're going to see just beyond the fence, where you're going to look and you're going to say, if only I did. And I will tell you what, the other side of the fence, the grass is greener, and it's a very welcoming environment for you to try those things. And so I would say, much like Todd said about taking the leap, I would say find the edge of your comfort zone and go there. I've presented some things over the last few years where I look back and I remember some of the hard conversations we've had and some of the critical feedback I got that prepared me for whatever came next. And I'm a better instructor for the opportunities I had in those rooms. And I guarantee, just the conversations I've had with others, get outside your comfort zone, be there, and we'll meet you there, and it'll be a great place.
Absolutely. So take the leap, get outside that comfort zone. If you want to be a better instructor, get outside that comfort zone, put that proposal in. October 31st is the deadline for instructor proposals to teach at the ILEETA conference next March. So you have a few days left. If you are struggling, please reach out to any of us. We will help you. If you have some ideas, we'll help you put it on paper. If you're struggling and don't have an idea, but you think you would do well at teaching, reach out to us. If we don't know if we don't know your topic, or if we don't know the answer, we will find somebody that can help mentor you. So with that said, I'll hand it over here to Harvey for the last couple minutes for your last word. Final thoughts.
Somebody mentioned here your proposal. Our objective is not to reject proposals at all. We can't usually take all the proposals that come in. We'll have to pick and choose, someplace or another, and we'll have to do that based on what we think people want to see. But if you have a proposal and you put it in, or you're struggling to do it, my email address, which is all over the website, to harveyh@ileeta.org. Send me an email. Let's get together. Let's figure this out. If you had a problem with or whatever, we've actually gone back on a number of proposals that came in and said, could you address this? Could you make this clearer? Could you clean this up? And for the most part, people have been great about it. Sometimes it was just an error. Do watch out for things like your spelling and whatever else. And you can use Microsoft Word to check those character counts and things like that, and put them in there first. But don't be afraid. We want to help you. We want to see good stuff out there. We want to see as many options for the ILEETA members as you can. And okay, if you feel like you just can't do it, then for gosh sakes, come to the conference and see what it's like and experience it. And you will learn a lot about being an instructor there. Or maybe identify someone that's going to be instructing at a conference and see if you can help out at our conference. Maybe you can help them out and learn from them, be mentored by them. But there's nothing really to be afraid of. I don't think we've ever had a real bad experience with classes and stuff. They've all offered something. I think if you go into any class and you leave with one good idea, it was a good class. And the beauty of ILEETA is that's almost never happened when you come out with just one good idea. It's been, as you said, overload of great ideas, and then trying to implement till we get home. But I appreciate everyone's time tonight. Listen to us. If we can be of any assistance, you've got my email address too. Yeah, to be a lawyer with 600 characters. Now the funny stuff comes in. Let us help you. Let us be part of that solution.
Thanks, Harvey. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Todd. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to take time to listen to us tonight. And hopefully we kind of push some people out of their comfort zone to submit that proposal. So, gentlemen, if you just stay on here for a little bit, we'll end this stream. And you all have a great night tonight.
Good night.